I'm going crazy. 무뎌져.
Jungkook, even at a young age, was known for his brooding nature. He was a middle school student currently. He had a way of observing the world with a furrowed brow, and this evening was no different. From his vantage point near the playground, he watched Ryan, his next-door neighbor, and a girl he had not seen these early years. He was playing with Michael, a boy Jungkook couldn't stand because behind her back always bully poor kids. While Weinstein is a good guy, why does she always hang out with him? He muttered to himself by grating teeth. Wine, on the other hand, was a spirited and kind-hearted child, fiercely protective of her friend Michael despite his rowdy exterior, was her closest confidant. The laughter filled the air as they chased each other around the swing while Chung was watching them from his room window. When fateful afternoon tension reached their peak, Chung's patience wore thin as he watched Wine and Michael together. While they were sitting together in his room with frustration, he lashed out, "Wine, why are you always with Michael? He's nothing but trouble," he said with anger bursting in him. Wine's face flushed with anger, and her protective instinct kicked in. "Michael is my friend. You shouldn't insult him like that," Wine defended her friend, not knowing the reality. Unable to contain her anger, Vine's emotion got the better of her. In a fit of rage, she turned and without thinking kicked a soccer ball that happened to be near Jungkook's prized collection of action figures. The ball crashed into the shelf, sending the figures tumbling to the ground. Some broke, others were damaged. Chung's and Vine's eyes widened in shock and fury. You broke them?" Chung trembled, sitting down and picking the broken pieces of his favorite action figure. Vian was so guilty and angry at herself and at Jungkook that she trembled, thinking what to do now. When she leaned to help him, but then whatever comes in her mind, she left him there alone and ran to her home back. A week passed after the incident with Jungkook's action figures, leaving a lingering tension between him and Vian, the once close neighbors, and started drifting apart, their friendship strained by unspoken grudges. In the passage of time, one evening, Vine's family gathered in the living room. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ram, had a somber expression on their face, and Vine could sense that something significant was about to be revealed. "Vine, wanted to talk to you." Curious but apprehensive, Vine asked, "What is it, Dad?" "We have been offered an opportunity to move abroad, Vine. Your father's work is taking us to a different country." The news hit Vine like a ton of bricks. She had grown up in this neighborhood, made friends, and forged memories. Leaving it all behind was a daunting prospect. "But what about school, my friends, and Jungkook?" Her eyes became glittery, thinking about everything, especially Jungkook. "Will I be even back and see him again?" Her mind was repeating this question. "We understand it's a big change, sweetheart, but this opportunity is important for our family's future." Vine's heart ached at the thought of leaving Jungkook, even though their friendship had been strained for only a week. He had always felt guilty about breaking his precious action figures in a fit of anger. It was a regret that had gnawed at her, but her childhood ego had prevented her from apologizing, but still he's more than normal friend for her. In the days leading up to their departure, Vine couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. She wanted to say sorry to Jungkook, to mend the rift between them before leaving, but the thought of admitting her mistake was still daunting, and her stubbornness held her back. Meanwhile, Jungkook had mixed emotions about Vine's impending departure. On one hand, he didn't want her to leave, and a part of him still harbored the bitterness from their childhood clash. On the other hand, couldn't help but feel relieved that Vine could be far away from Michael, the friend he had always disliked. He had suspected that Michael wasn't the best influence for Vine, but he had kept his concern to himself. Years had passed since Vine's abrupt departure from their neighborhood, and both she and Jungkook had grown into young adults. They had completed their university studies, but the memories of their childhood still lingered like faintly of a time when they were close friends. Now, with Vine's family returning to their hometown, life was about to take an unexpected turn. The Ryan's family's house was under renovation, leaving them with no place to stay. But their bond with the John family was still best as ever, and Jung's parents requested them to live along until their home was renovated. Han's family was grateful for the offer. They had missed their old friends, the Jones, and it felt like homecoming to back in the familiar neighborhood. As the Ryan family settled into the June household, a sense of nostalgia hung in the air when Howard couldn't shake the anxiety that came with the prospect of facing Jungkook again. Similarly, Jungkook, who had harbored feelings for Ryan since childhood, was now confronted with her return. He still loved her, but the bitterness from the past had left scars that were difficult to heal. Seeing her again brought a mix of emotional longing, anger, and underlying desire to make amends. The first few days were awkward. Jungkook and Ryan occasionally crossed paths, their gazes briefly looking before they looked away, lost in a sea of unspoken words. When afternoon Lan found herself alone in the John family house, her curiosity getting the better of her, she had been exploring the rooms and hallways, each corner a treasure trove of memories and emotions. So many things have changed. While murmuring to herself, she explored every corner of John's house, but her step halted in front of that room or his room. His room held a different energy and all, even if this wasn't her room, but she had spent her days here laughing, joking, crying, sulking. And even when she doesn't want to eat something that her mother cooks, she always turns to his room and hide from her mother. A smile plastered over her lips, but then that smile vanished, thinking her last days here. Ryan's feet walked ahead in Jungkook's room. Eventually, she wandered into Chuck's room, where the memories of their childhood friendship seemed to come alive as Ryan took in the familiar but transformed room. Her eyes felt something that made her eyes widen and her cheeks blushing. That a shirtless Jungkook was busy working on his laptop, his chiseled chest and defined muscles glistened with a sheen of sweat in the warm afternoon light, which was side that left him momentarily breathless. His biceps muscles were perfectly made by workout, while his one arm was filled with ink tattoos, but wasn't less than an art on an art itself. His toned abs were still shape while he was sitting. Ryan's eyes were frozen at one place, as she forgot her surroundings and anything else until Chung felt a gaze on himself and looked up. Ryan, I didn't mean to intrude. I was just exploring, she stuttered while blushing furiously. Chung quickly grabbed a nearby shirt and pulled it on, his own cheeks stinged with embarrassment. Yet there was a subtle twinkle in his eyes as he noticed Ryan's blush. "It's okay, Ryan, don't worry about it." While smiling awkwardly, he spoke and rubbed the back of his neck. The atmosphere in the room had shifted. Their gaze lingered on each other for a moment longer than usual, as if the years of separation had given them newfound appreciation for the changes they saw in one another. Tom finds Ryan as now a more responsible and elegant woman. His body and emotions for her increased more instead. Decreasing, Ryan pointed towards the door. I will leave you continue. Ryan left her phrase as she left the room, the memory of Chung's bare chest and abs, or all of him fixed in her mind. She couldn't deny the flirting emotion stirring within her. It was a mix of guilt, nostalgia, and an undeniable attraction to the boy who had once been her closest friend. Later that same evening, Wan found herself in the John family kitchen preparing a snack. The floor was still damp from a recent spill she accidentally did, and she didn't notice as she walked across it, her thoughts elsewhere. Suddenly her foot slipped on the wet surface, and she began to fall backward, but before she could even register what was happening, a strong arm wrapped around her, pulling her close, Wan's eyes closed tightly. Thank God for sending an angel to save her. What angel? Without opening her eyes, she asked who. Chung smiled while looking at her curious but beautiful expressions and slowly whispered in her ear, I have got you, Anna. Time seemed to stand still as Wan climbed to Jungkook's heart, pounding against her chest. His scent filled her senses, and the sensation of his body against hers sent shivers down her spine. She could feel his rapid heartbeat mirroring her own. She opened her eyes. Quickly still clinging to him, their eyes locked in a lingering gaze, a mixture of surprise, vulnerability, and an unspoken connection that transcended words. In that intimate moment, the world outside ceased to exist, leaving only the two of them caught in the dance of emotion. The kitchen was filled with an electrifying tension. As they held on to each other, it was a scene straight out of romance, where their hearts spoke, but their lips couldn't. The reunion was far from what they had expected, and it felt left both of them with conflicting emotions, wondering where these new feelings would lead. One was little revealed after seeing a light smile over his lips. She bit her lower lip, looking away. Thanks, standing straight with a comfortable space between Ma looked at him with her honey eyes. She quickly passed beside him, but with a few words whispering in his ear. The night was calm, and the rooftop balcony of Chung's house provided a perfect vantage point for stargazing. Chung stood here alone, but waiting for her, gazing at the night sky, lost in his thought. It was a tranquil moment, the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze, only sound. As he looked out in the darkness, Chung sensed someone approaching. He turned to find Wan standing beside him. Sighing, he looked back at the sky, the soft glow of the moonlight highlighting her features. An awkward silence hung between them as the both stared at the same starry canvas. Chung, we are leaving tomorrow, Wan softly spoke in a whispering tone. Oh, his tone was surprisingly calm. Wan got scared, thinking, what if he don't think of her as a friend anymore? While she was thinking of them more than friends, another moment of silence passed. Neither of them knew how to bridge the gap that had grown between them over the years. You know, Jungkook, when we were kids, I used to have that big ego and never accepted my mistake. Chung turned to look at her, his curiosity piqued, until the time came and I realized that I was late. It was difficult, really difficult not to accept, but with the guilt that I left without a word. Jung opened his mouth to say, but stopped, not knowing what to say. And you know, after we left, there wasn't a day when I didn't miss you. Every day, every minute I missed everything about you, everything about me. Chung's two eyes were shining in moonlight with a smile appearing on his lips slowly. When noticed still looking at the moon and the clouds. Yes, everything, your smile, the way you made me laugh. Your kindness, but well, we were kids and I didn't really understand all of it. Then Chung started to skip a beat. Wan's confession filled him with an unexpected warmth. Chung stood more closer to Wan. Looking at her, he slowly whispered in a soft tone, Wan, I missed you too. Wan's eyes widened in surprise and she blushed, her gaze dropping to the ground. You did? Wan shyly asked, while Chung answered, controlling his funny smile with blush on his cheeks. Yeah, I did. The ice had broken, and the conversation flowed more easily now. Chung leaned in slightly, his voice tinged with a flirtatious tone. You know, Wan, you have grown even more beautiful since we last saw each other. Wan's cheeks fluttered deeper as she looked up at him. Her heart pounded. Jungkook stopped it. Chung crying while teasing her. The part Jungkook that Wan knew was back after breaking that wall of ego in between. Can't help it, it's true. The moonlight bathed them in its soft glow, and their eyes met again, filled with a mix of longing and desire. The rooftop balcony felt like their own private world, where time stood still. Wan, there's something I've been waiting to tell you. Not now, but from school time. I had many friends, you know, but the feelings I had for you since then, I didn't feel like that for anyone else. With time when I grew, these feelings built up more and more, until it was hard to deny. Chung bit his lip while looking at Wan. What is it? Wan's breathing became heavy as he proceeded to confess his feeling. I like you. No, I mean, I love you. I really love you, Wan. And you're my childhood sweetheart that everyone longs for in their life. Wan said short as he heard his confession, her own feelings laid bare. But Wan didn't back away this time, nor kept quiet. Instead, she confessed her inner feelings to Jungkook, leaving all the shit aside that we did in our childhood. I was always eager to confess these same feelings. I just don't know how and when I'll confess, but right now I have a chance and I'll not let it slide easily. So hear me clearly, Jungkook. I love you too, and same as you said, you're my childhood sweetheart, my first love. Under the moonlight, their hands found each other, figures interlocking in a silent promise. Jung's hand bent from her arm to her neck, gripping it softly as the both leaned in and their lips met in a gentle and tender, sealing their newfound connection. The rooftop balcony, once a place of solitude, now bore witness to the rekindling of a love that had endured years of separation and misunderstanding. As they pulled away from their eyes met again, and they shared a smile filled with promises.